Namaskar. Welcome everyone to nios video series. Today we are going to do English course. This lesson is 13 and the name of the lesson is The Tiger. This is the sign of tiger in the tunnel. The night is dark and silent. A young boy and his father are alone. In the hut, in the middle of the jungle. Soon the father leaves his son alone and goes out in the jungle. So where does he go and why? Let's find out. Tembu, the boy, opened his eyes in the dark and wondered if his father was ready to leave the hut on his nightly errand. There was no moon that night, and the deathly stillness of the surrounding jungle was broken only occasionally by the shrill cry of Sisada. Sometimes from far off came the hollow hammering of woodpecker, carried along on the faint breeze. As you see in the slide, on the grunt of a wild boar could be heard as he dug up a favorite root. But these sounds are rare, and the silence of the forest always returned to swallow them up. Baldio, the watchman, was awake. He stretched himself slowly, unwinding the heavy shawl that covered him up. It was close on midnight, and the chill air made him shiver. Shiver means feeling very cold. As you see in the slide, the station, a small shack backed by heavy jungle, was a station in name only. for trains only stopped there, if at all, for a few seconds before entering the deep cutting led to the tunnel. Most trains merely slowed down before taking the sharp curve before the cutting. Baldio was responsible for signaling whether or not the tunnel was clear of obstruction. And his manual signal stood before the entrance. At night, it was his duty to see the lamp was burning and that overland mail passed through safely. Shall I come too, father? Asked Tembu sleepily, still lying in a huddle in a corner of the hut. No, it's cold tonight. Do not get up, said the father. Tembu, who was 12 years old, did not always sleep with his father at the station, for he also had to help in the home, whether his mother and small sister were usually alone. As you see in the slide, they lived in a small tribal village. Outskirts of the forest, about 3 miles away from the station. Their small rice fields did not provide them with more than a bare living. And Baldio considered himself lucky to have got a job of khalasi at the small wayside signal stop. Still drowsy, Baldio groped for his lamp in darkness and then fumbled about in search of matches. That is, matchsticks. When he had produced the light, he left the hut, closed the door behind him, and set off along the permanent way. Tebu had fallen asleep again. At midnight, Baldio goes out of his hut into the thick forest. The jungle is full of dangerous animals. But Baldio has a job to do, and it is important. Let's learn what happens further. Baldio wondered whether the lamp on signal post was still alight. Gathering his shawl closer about him, he stumbled on. Sometimes along the rails, sometimes along the ballast. He longed to get back to his warm corner in the hut. The eeriness of the place was increased by neighboring hills, while overhung the main line threateningly. On entering the cutting with its sheer rock walls towering high above the rails, Baldio could not help thinking about the wild animals he might encounter. He was afraid. He had heard many tales of the famous tunnel tiger, a man eater, which was supposed to frequent this spot. But he hardly believed in these stories. For since his arrival at this place a month ago, he had not seen or even heard a tiger. There had, of course, been panthers, and only a few days ago the villagers had killed one of their spears and axes. This is the spear, as you see in the slide also. And axe, this is the axe. People always killed an animal if they saw. Baldio was occasionally heard. He had heard the sawing of a panther calling to its mate, but they had not come near the tunnel or the shed. Baldio walked confidently for being a tribal himself. He used to the jungle and its ways. Like his forefathers, he carried a small axe, fragile to look at but deadly when in use. He prided himself in his skill in wielding it against wild animals. He had killed a young boar with it once, and the family had feasted on the flesh for 3 days. The axe had of pure steel. Like our utensils are made of steel, like that only. Thin but ringing true like a bell. Had been made by his father over a charcoal fire. Occasionally, an official who had come to the station had offered him good money for the weapon. But Baldio had no intention of parting with it. The cutting curved sharply, and in the darkness, the black entrance to the tunnel looked menacingly. The signal light was out. Baldio set to work to haul the lamp down by its chain. If the oil had finished, he would have to return to the hut for more. The mail train was due in 5 minutes. I hope everything that I have taught you today you learnt well with the grammar and the lesson. I hope it interests you all. Thank you.